as the UN platform to support economic and social development of the continent. We have to remember that in those days, there were very few countries in Africa that were independent. So it's not surprise, therefore, that Ethiopia, who was independent, I mean, they've never been colonized, as it were, they took the leadership in facilitating the establishment of the UNECA and hosting it. That's why we are there, proudly so. So it's been 60 years in which ECA has been present in shaping development processes and discourse and practice on the continent. And from the celebrated African Alternative Framework to Structural Adjustment, the AFSAP, which, as you know, was a human-centered framework that created, let's say, that became the precedent to what later became the PRSPs. ECA has been also at the core of all the efforts that led to establishment of several African institutions, including the African Development Bank, ECOWAS, and so on. In addition to that, as part of our contribution to building knowledge products for the continent, we've been the pioneers in producing economic reports on Africa. The economic report on Africa has been the flagship report of the Commission on structural transformation issues. So we put structural transformation back in the agenda of our continent. The Assessing Regional Integration report, the ARIA report, again contributed significantly into elucidating the basics of regional integration, the challenges and the opportunities. And today, as you know, on the 21st of March 2018 in Kigali, our Africa signed the agreement to establish the African Continental Free Trade Area. Those are some of the milestones that represent the contribution of ECA to the institutional landscape on the continent, to the body of thinking and practice on many, many development issues. Today, we are part and parcel of the process towards the Global Compact on Migration. Recently, in Nairobi, there was the conference on the blue economy, of which some of our think pieces, like the African Blue Economy Policy Handbook, was part of the conceptual documents that shaped the discussions. We've been part and parcel of the body of institutions that have been supporting the African Union in the discharging its responsibilities. The formulation of the African mining vision, the African water vision, many other important policy decisions taken by the African Union, where the ECA has also been contributing to. So I'm very proud as a staff member of being part of the celebrations of our 60th anniversary. We have a very, very important body of work, but of course there are many challenges ahead.
Mr. Pedro, of course, you're speaking about the 60 years of work here on the continent. You've spoken about the contribution to several economies. You've touched base with, of course, some of the achievements that we've seen in the 60 years. But tell me, what do you see as the central thrust for this particular event that is happening on the 12th?
Well, first, of course, is to celebrate our own achievements, but beyond that is to look at the road ahead. The operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area is a very important priority, because the AFCFTA will open great opportunities for this continent when we'll have access today to a market of 1.2 billion people. That will strengthen the business fundamentals of many of the initiatives that at the country level, at the regional level, the continent is trying to operationalize. So that is one very important agenda that ECA will continue to work on, support the formulation of national CFTA strategies, and as well, as a basis to improve the share of intra-African trade, support diversification on the continent. Here in Yaoundé, our celebrations will focus exactly on the theme of economic diversification, because most of the countries in our sub-region, immediately after the fall of the commodity prices in 2014, suffered macroeconomic instability, which led in some cases to the adoption of structural adjustment programs. And that has created serious challenges, essentially how to reconcile the need to bring back macroeconomic stability in the region with the with the imperative of pursuing long-term investments towards structural transformation. And that is a conversation which involves many parties, including, of course, the International Monetary Fund, which is administering some of these structural adjustment programs, to see how we can move from short-termism to long-termism, essentially how to equip our member states to becoming more competitive economically, more resilient economies, of course, where we were addressing issues of poverty, and of course, in the case of a couple of countries that we work with, the so-called middle-income countries, avoid the middle-income trap. So that will be the focus of our conversations on the 12th of December, where we are organizing a colloquium. We're bringing the representatives of the International Monetary Fund, the president of CEMAC, the Minister of Economy, Development Planning of Cameroon, and other very important stakeholders to engage in these very important discussions. How to position Central Africa in the context of the opportunities that are arising with the establishment of the continental free trade area. How to break the cycle of dependence on commodity exports, oil mostly, and create strong and competitive economies.